Welcome back to GoPro Motorplex for the IAME USA Grand National Championship presented by Hunt Brothers Pizza. The CNC Performance Engineering KA100 Shootout's about to get underway. $4,000 up for grabs here at the end of the show tonight. We'll go over the format in a moment, driver intros in a moment. My name's Xander Clements, alongside me, Caleb Smock. What a show we're about to be in for.
Absolutely. This is hands down one of the most exciting events we have on the schedule so far of the year. This is the KA100 Shootout. We got $4,000 up for grabs. A quick little run through of how this is going to happen. It's going to be an 8-minute warm-up followed by a 12-minute heat race number 1, 10-minute heat race number 2, and 10-minute final. Again, winner takes all. 4K up for grabs. A lot of people like to think that would be up for 10K. We're going to start here shortly with our driver intros. And this, again, is the 13 top drivers who were picked here this afternoon. It was a little bit of a mix-up between, or a little bit of a combination between both qualifying and the heat race, along with two promoter picks and a fan favorite vote that over 1,600 people voted in for this afternoon for your KA100 Shootout. This is going to be a night race, a little bit chilly here this afternoon at GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. It is a beautiful fall afternoon, not a cloud in the sky. The sun has just set, and we're about to get underway shortly here. We're going to do our driver intros, and then after that, we're going to get on track. Again, 8-minute warm-up, 12 minutes in heat race number 1, 10 minutes in heat race number 2, and then it's going to keep going on into our final. Last year, this was hands down the most exciting event we had. Close racing and alternate track layout, something that we saw last year, changing up tracks, trying to make sure that we can throw it so it's completely even across the board, all sorts of hecticness in between each of the runs. You see mechanics and drivers both getting down on their karts during the little bit of a break in between track sessions as we're about to send it down here shortly to our very own Xander Clements. He is going to be bringing it in and trying to introduce all of the guys and gals who made it here this afternoon. We're going to get going here shortly. Before we send it on down, we're going to send it down right now to our very own Xander Clements getting underway.
All right, everyone, it is about that time. Your CNC Performance Engineering KA100 Shootout competitors are set to get underway. Right behind me, we're going to introduce them on through. First up, with a fan vote here, winning on through, seated number 14 from Forward Direction Motorsports, Travis Varney. The first of the two promoters picks for Team Timmy Tech Comp Kart, Weston Workman. The second of your two promoters picks for the Ryan Perry Motorsport Tony Kart gang, Jeremy Fletcher. And now the top 11 that have transferred through after heat number 1 for Speed Concepts Racing, Paulie Massimino. 10th seeded coming into tonight for Trinity Karting Group, Finnegan Bailiff. For Rollison Performance Group, Cosmic, seeded 9th, Chase Hand. Seeded 8th, the Privateer Alonzo Kart driver here out of North Carolina, Aiden Levy. Seeded 7th, for Ryan Perry Motorsport, Lucas Zabo. Seated 6th for the Rollison Performance Group Cosmic Gang, Hayden Jones. For Team GWR Tony Kart, seated 5th, Connor Zilish. Seated 4th, driving a Speed Concepts Racing CRG, Tyler Wettengel. Seated 3rd, and a good run today in the heat races for BJR and MDR, Christian Miles. And one of your heat winners here today, seated 2nd, Alex Stanfield. And entering tonight as the number 1 seed, pole award in qualifying and heat 1 winner, for RPM Tony Kart, John Burke. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. We'll send it back up to you, Caleb. We go to the grid here as we get set for the CNC Performance Engineering KA Shootout.
Thank you, Xander, and thank you for all the drivers who are about to get set to go here shortly. Their karts are now lined up on grid. They got a new set of tires to go here this afternoon for the shootout. Xander Clements will be joining back up in the booth here shortly, but we're going to be going all out this afternoon. We got different camera angles. We got a drone. We have a grid camera, and we have some of the finest announcers in the country here to bring you this event live for the second edition IAME US Grand, sponsored by the Hunt Brothers Pizza. There's a good shot right now. You can see some of the drivers and crew along with their vehicles lined up on grid right now. They're about to go into a quick little drivers meeting, and after that we're going to get underway with an 8-minute warm-up to get a little bit of an alternate layout for tonight. Not the typical national layout like you've seen before. This is a little bit reminiscent of what we saw yesterday when it came time for the mechanics race, if you were watching there. When they enter into turn 3, instead of going all the way down to the normal turn 3, it's going to be into a little bit of a tight hairpin, but they'll then join back on track in the double left-handers of turns 6 and 7 is now going to be turns 4, followed by turn number 5. They'll go up through the concrete patches, making a quick little double right-hander through a fast chicane, and then making their way back on the normal racing line. This is going to be exciting. You can see them getting teamed up around there now, getting a quick little discussion about what's about to go down. But this was hands down one of the most exciting events we had here yesterday. We have some of the top drivers in the country making their debut run back into a seat again just for this event alone. Xander?
Great look here as we get set to get underway for the CNC Performance Engineering KA100 Shootout. In the Tillerson jacket there, that is Mr. Eric Jones, giving a bit of info to all the drivers here and letting them know what they need to be prepared for here tonight. They're all running brand new set of tires sponsored by MG Tires, so all 14 competitors will get a brand new set. They'll run 8 minutes here for the warm-up session. Then after that, they get 12 minutes on the grid to work on the go-karts. We'll get to talk to them after the warm-up, see how they fare, see what changes they want to make. The mechanics bring all of their tools up to the grid, and then they can do any change they want to the go-kart so long as they keep the same engine, the same tires, and the same chassis all together. Last year, these shootout races had a lot of carnage, and they had a lot of last-minute fixes on the grid. It was a scramble, and it was one of the coolest events for everybody to see. And that right now, that last little pep talk here from Mr. IAME USA, Eric Jones, letting the drivers know what we've got in store here for tonight.
Yeah, last year we saw all sorts of mayhem when it came into the time of the 12-minute interval between being on track. Honestly, I think it was one of the most exciting things that we've seen, guys doing axle changes, tire changes. Last year, I think the Nitro even straightened a chassis in between the run between the qualifying and the heat races. So it's something that's going to be interesting to watch here. You get to see live action on grid. What normally happen inside the pit area will now be happening here, and you can see it live. There's Jeremy Fletcher getting a little bit of a pep talk there from, I believe, his little brother. He is getting a little bit of a last-minute conversation.
That's little Marco Romero.
Oh,
man.
that's not his brother.
That is the king of the food stand here from the Vera's Steak Food Truck that's giving him a little bit of good luck, although Jeremy's little brother normally does make an appearance at the races, but for him and Lucas Zabel, they're lined up. First ones to head out here to check out the racetrack. So again, this layout never before ran here for the IAME USA East, or for the IAME USA Grand National Championship presented by Hunt Brothers Pizza. It'll be the first laps for all these drivers on the circuit. It has not been run by anyone except for one session last night with qualifying for the Rental Kart Tuner Challenge Light Division Group A. Everybody else going in completely blind. They got the layout given in the documents this morning, and then from there, they had to guess of what it will look like. But overall, it is a blind way going in. It's coming your way next here, live from GoPro Motorplex, under the lights for the IAME USA Grand National Championship. It's the CNC Performance Engineering KA Shootout. We'll be right back.
USA, a top-level performance team with unmatched hospitality, offering a full-service driver development program with year-round testing available in Miami, Florida, and the official North America racing team of Parolin Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParolinUSA.com.
Massive turnouts, world-class venues, and an awesome family-friendly atmosphere. All of these and more are pillars of the U.S. Pro Kart Series, which is gearing up for its biggest season yet in 2023. Orlando, Houston, Newcastle, Cincinnati, and Mooresville. Welcome to the top level of North American karting. Welcome to the U.S. Pro Kart Series.
Welcome back here live from GoPro Motorplex. It is the CNC Performance Engineering KA Shootout, looking at one of the new alternate corners there, turn number 3, and here we go. First laps ever turned for these drivers on this specific track layout with a brand new set of sticker MG tires. They'll go up through turns 1 and 2, and where it would normally be a flat out turn 3, it's a 180-degree hairpin with barriers on the outside. Then they go out of turn number 3 and they'll head for turn number 4 into what was the turn 8 hairpin. It's now turn number 5. Then from turn 5, they head out of there to what is now turn number 7. And turn number 7 becomes just a flat out 90-degree corner or light brush of the brakes, because then they go straight across the asphalt over into turn number 8, then turn number 9, and then a quick left, turn number 10, up the hill to turn number 11, and that is one lap around for the CNCPE KA Shootout drivers here. We'll pull the live timing up here in a moment as they begin. Jeremy Fletcher, the first one through and onto the racetrack here to try and find the limits.
Something to keep an eye on, too, of turns 9 and 10, that quick little chicane coming back onto the track. Yesterday during the mechanics race, a lot of guys were cutting the track. They now put a barrier all the way onto the main surface. They're not allowed to use that runoff anymore because the barriers go all the way past it. They're going to be carrying all sorts of speed through there, and there may be 1 or 2 guys that overstep it just a little bit, maybe brush the barrier. Going to put a whole lot of strain on the mechanics during that 12-minute session in between this practice run before we get to heat race number 1. There's what I'm talking about right there. That barrier now comes all the way out through the concrete. That is going to be all sorts of problems here for these drivers, but hey, this is what it's about. You got to learn on the fly, you got to tune it quickly, and with the temperatures dropping quickly, it is getting very chilly here this afternoon, so look for all sorts of looseness coming from these karts.
Yeah, so let's take it onto the circuit here. There's Jeremy Fletcher and Lucas Zabo headed up the hill to turn number 3, and a big pack beginning to form back behind them over by turn number 3 now, headed out of turn number 2, and we'll give you the update on where the lap times are if they'll update here in a moment on the Race Hero and timing monitor screen. But when we get those sorted for you, we'll find it and make sure that we have all the drivers lined up. Again, the 11 drivers qualified on in, and then we had 2 promoters picks and 1 fan vote.
Yeah, so that will set the field for these 13 drivers about to take this event on tonight. One driver, I should say, will come out of here $4,000 richer and say that they won the shootout here for night number 1 of the KA100 for the IAME Grands, 2nd edition, sponsored by Hunt Brothers Pizza, as we now watch. Again, that's both Zabo and, if not mistaken, Fletcher making their way through what is now turn number 5, what was turn number 8, making their way up the hill now through turn 7. Going into the new addition, you can see that concrete also is going to play a huge factor too. They're not having to turn on it until that second part when they're coming back on the main track. That concrete is going to have a whole lot more grip than the pavement. So maybe just a little bit of a learning curve for the first couple laps, but these are all professional drivers. They'll get used to it soon.
Yeah, look at that here. And again, what a great view as well. The fence is starting to line here just to the practice session as we get underway. It'll be a 12-minute hot grid for them to work on the go-karts for heat number 1. And then on that, 10 minutes after heat 1, 10 minutes after heat 2 to try and make some adjustments. Everybody's trying to right now from each team learn from the drivers. The drivers themselves also playing musical chairs of who's going to lead the train to find someone else to see maybe someone else is a better braking marker than they do. Different lines through. We saw a couple drivers running on that runoff there in what normally is turn 9. Now we're not seeing as much of that. How do they get through this section here? Over onto the final corner. Then this is normal, but the braking zone is different. Here's Alex Stanfield making a pass on Weston Workman. He looks pretty sporty early on. So down the front stretch they'll go. And to give you an update of where he is, Stanfield is the quickest one so far on the layout. Connor Zillis second quick. Christian Miles is third quick.
Christian Miles actually just went to the top of the board. He went about a tenth, or actually less than a tenth faster than Connor Zilich. And already the times are getting very, very close. All within the top 5 were within about 3/10 of each other. The entire field separated to no more than a second, with everyone trying to figure everything out quickly. Like you said before, Xander playing musical chairs, trying to figure out whose line works better, whose breaking points work better. But as it continues to get colder and colder, the lines may change just a little bit here.
Yeah, the jackets are out, the hoodies, the beanies, they're all out here at GoPro Motorplex as everyone gets ready to watch all the action. But here's a look at the times. Christian Miles, quickest. He'll get bested by Alex Stanfield across the line. Stanfield now goes to a 41.4. Then he gets beat by Connor Zilich at a 41.33. So Zilich will go even a little bit better just after Alex Stanfield does. He goes to the top. Chase Hand gets a good lap together. He goes to second. Stanfield back to third. Then it's Christian Miles in fourth. Then Aiden Levy in fifth. Finnegan Bailiff is sixth. Everyone's still really close. I mean, half a second. Travis Varney down the order a little bit as he learns on the fan vote here in the number 920. But 14th, and with an outside shot here, the 14th seed to try and compete for the win. Here's Tyler Wettengel. Chase Hand headed through the chicane, up the hill to the final turn. And they've got 2.5 minutes left here in the session as they trail Aiden Levy, who's following Finnegan Bailiff around down to turn number 1.
And something else to keep in mind, too, the draft is going to play a little bit of an effect, but not as much as it did it before. They took out the entire long part of the track. You're flat out from turn 2 all the way to the bull corner of turn 4 in the typical layout. Now that that's all out, you only have one, maybe count it 2 straightaways where you can actually get a run on someone to follow in a tow.
And again, here, this section, there's a lot of questions not only of where to drive, but where you can pass. That's what the drivers are trying to learn right now here in the practice session, is what they can do around others. Because we know with the longer straightaways gone, the speeds are a little bit lower. It means the braking zones are a little bit shorter. The first turn should be still a good passing zone. You would think turn 3, from what we saw last night in the Rental Kart Tuner Challenge, will also be a good passing zone. And again, there's Lucas Zabo going through. Jeremy Fletcher was running with him. He's going to drop back, find some more company to mess with here. Fletcher's actually the worse off right now. He's down in 13th, half a second off the pace, as Christian Miles has now improved to a 41.013. So very good time there for Christian Miles on the LN kart for BJR and MDR.
Other drivers keep in mind, Hayden Jones, who had a good run when it came time for heat race number 1, drove all the way back up to the main crew, and K100 Jr. is now finding himself in P5 overall. Right behind him is Weston Workman, Chase Hand. Currently in P7, Lucas Zabo falling back into 8th. Aiden Levy up into the 9th position overall. Paulie Massimino struggling there. I said that, but he just moved himself farther down the board there to the 12th position. Finnegan Bailiff in 11th. Jeremy Fletcher 13th. Travis Varney in the 14th spot. Christian Miles still the fastest.
So Alex Stanfield leading this group around here with Hayden Jones and Lucas Zabo in the pack, as well as Paulie Massimino all together. And they're coming to the close here. 1 minute to go in the first and only practice session they'll get before the pill pick heats get going. Weston Workman around the final corner here. One driver already into the pit lane. He's going to pull in a couple laps early. I believe that might have been Connor Zilich coming down into the scale. So Zilich is in and a few more are in. And it'll be time to start going to work on the karts here. The checkered flag will be flying in a few moments. Weston Workman still looking for some more. Some of the drivers, again, you get to use that runoff now in kind of a different way. You're carrying more speed through turn 3. You're seeing them open up over to turn 4 onto the curb over there. Just a lot of interesting points to take from the lines, as you can see this awesome shot as well in that overhead view. They swing out through this new section, turn 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then that sends them into the final corner. A few more drivers coming in. Here's Hayden Jones. He'll come into the scale line as well. There's another one ducking off there at the bottom of the screen. Christian Miles going to sit on his time, and John Burke goes a little bit better. So teammates topping the boards on the Ryan Perry Motorsport Tony karts. John Burke John Burke at the top, and then his teammate Lucas Zabo was up there, but Zabo ended up back. But John Burke on the RPM Tony kart. The Mike Doty Racing Lando Norris kart of Christian Miles is second. Connor Zillage on the Team GWR Tony kart is third. The RPG Cosmic of Hayden Jones is fourth. Alex Stanfield is fifth. Tyler Wettengel sixth. Weston Workman, Paulie Massimino, Aiden Levy, Chase Hand, the top 10. Then Finnegan Bailiff back to Lucas Zabo, Jeremy Fletcher, and Travis Varney. But the practice session coming to a close. They'll pull into the scale line here just to check weight if they want. And then they're going to go to the grid, and we're going to go down to the grid and talk to them to get some first thoughts about this whole deal.
I get what Kyle's saying. We only have one mic. So we can send guys over here or whatever. We don't have another mic to do two. We don't.
And they had 8 minutes to try to figure out how fast they were going to try to run around here and figure out as much as they could. Now it is the hot pit. They're going to have 12 minutes to make whatever adjustments they want. You can see some of the mechanics are going to town right now on the karts as our very own Xander Clements is now on grid, about to do a grid walk. Xander?
Got to make sure you have the mic on to be able to do a grid walk. You can see Hayden Jones going behind me here. Weston Workman with a little bit of a work. Ryan Norberg joining me. We're watching this one, right? So we're getting to see a little bit of it. Obviously, you're kind of coaching, helping the RPG guys out. What did you see from that first session?
I don't really think I'm helping a lot right now. I'm just kind of wandering around trying to get out of the way. Track's cool, though. It's an interesting layout. I mean, that chicane is tight, and it's going to create a lot of, interesting moves out in that last section over there. And leads a lot of guys trying different setups. I know, you could go pretty low on the gear and try and get a good run down the straightaway and try and play that, or you could go high and, try and run it through the infield. So I think you're going to see some pretty interesting strategies.
I think so, too. Here, Ryan Norberg, we'll let him get back to enjoying the night. He's hopefully going to be in the X30 Pro Shootout later on. Let's take a walk down the grid, see who we can find to chat with after that first session is all but wrapped up. Again, everyone kind of gets to find a place. You can see the flashlights are coming out. Here's a look at the Lucas Zabo camp. They're trying to make a few adjustments. He's talking with team driver coach Jagger Jones, who was in the Rental Car Tuner Challenge here last night, and so he's going to be chatting with him just to see what they can learn from, what they can find a little more pace-wise. Obviously, he's got a little more to go. But all the drivers starting to make their way up towards the front of the grid. That way they've got them here, so we're going to keep on walking backwards and see who else we can find in this one. Over here, we've got some changes going on for the RPG camp. This one going on Chase Hand's go-kart, so they're making a couple changes. Mike Rollison. Mike, can we chat with you here for a second real quick? So, Mike, obviously, first session, we talked with Ryan. What'd you see here? What's going on right now for Chase Hand's go-kart?
Well, they're making a sprocket change and just a little adjustment to the tire pressure.
And then overall, I mean, looking at this layout here, first couple thoughts on it from seeing that session. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a cool layout. Yeah, I think the racing will be good.
Well, we hope to let a lot of it be really good. We'll let you get back to work, Mike Rollison here. He's got a lot of work to do. His team with the RPG camp, they're going to work on Chase Jones's kart, and you can see Hayden Jones and Chase Hand, and then, of course, there's on the data with the laptop, Cedric Lupian. He's trying to overlay the data between the two drivers, learn what they can from each one of them here, and go over and debrief in that regard. Let's walk down the rest of the pit over here. Look at this. Christian Miles' camp also making a sprocket change. A little bit of a on the grid work here. You got Michael Garinger, you got Brandon Jarsacrack, you got everybody working on the go-kart here. We'll see if we can catch up with Christian in a moment here, but he's going to chat a little bit more to learn from the session as the session goes on. You go further down. Let's find the Speed Concepts Racing boys. Here's Tyler Wettengeld. Tyler, all right, first thoughts on that one there. What do you think?
It was really good. I love the track layout. I like the fact they changed it for the shootout. Definitely really dynamic going through there. Make a couple adjustments, and we should be good for qualify. Actually, there's no qualifying, right?
Yeah, right. It's a pill pick here for the heat races. So we're going to have a pill pick for heat number 1, invert of that pill pick heat 2, and then, of course, the main event is where you finish both of them. How was the concrete section there? Was it pretty grippy? That's what we've heard for all the other sections on the racetrack.
Definitely really grippy. We're going to make a couple adjustments on the car with gear and stuff like that, and then we should be ready to go. But, no, we're going to be good.
All right, we'll let Tyler Wettengeld get back to it again. Like he said, couple adjustments for them. Frantically making some adjustments over here on his teammate, Paulie Massimino, on the Speed Concepts Racing CRG. They're going to do another sprocket change as we go on down the grid, and we've hit all the way up to it now to Hayden Jones's camp over here in the 916, so a few more works with him. Hayden obviously taking a look at the data over there with Cedric Lupian and Ryan Norberg. They're trying to make sure that they can see what's going on between himself and his teammate Chase Hand. They're one of the few teams here with multiple drivers in the field under the same banner. Again, the Speed Concepts guys, they've got 2 between Tyler Wettengeld and Paulie Massimino, but they're on 2 different go-karts. Identical go-karts here, both on the Cosmic chassis for Chase Hand and for Hayden Jones, so you get to learn a lot for setup-wise on both of them. And again, the heat races are just big test sessions. Any adjustments they want to try, they could do something on Hayden, something else on Chase Hand, and then compare the data, again, from heat 1 and even from heat number 2 to set the grid for the main event. So lots of cool stuff here on the grid. We'll keep the camera going around here, Caleb.
Thank you, Xander. That's a different perspective. We glad that we can have this camera view that can just walk around the tracks. We can see exactly what the crew and teams are going through. And again, the drivers, they're going to have to go through a learning curve quickly. They only had 8 minutes on track, and they had to do a pill draw. Now, this is something that you see maybe at a club series or something that maybe you may see on the dirt side where you do a pill draw. That determines your starting spot. And then from there, all bets are off. You're going to have to show off of talent how high you can make your way up the field. And once that gets going there as well, it shows for all sorts of kind of racing. And again, the temperature continues to drop cooler and cooler here this weekend. It's getting a little bit chilly now, probably in the mid-50s is what I'm going to have to say right now. That's going to come into factor when it comes to where you have to pressurize your tires. Look for a very high tire setup. Some guys may try to do it a little bit so that the tires come in a tad bit later than normal. And then we're going to continue to have this camera just going around on track. We're going to go a little bit quiet on the radio. We're going to let these guys just continue to go to work right now. And here's a bird's eye view of what these drivers and crews are going through right now. All right, so we're now down on grid. Now, Weston Workman, you ran this event last year at the X30 Senior, got the fan favorite vote. This year you drove your way into the KA. Tell us a little bit about how you're handling this new track change and what you guys are going to do going forward into the heat race number 1.
So being in the shootout last year, I have a little bit of experience trying to learn a track, brand new track, so I feel like that's helped me. But it's really just trying to get the kart right, and then you have to take in so much when you're on that first session because it's just like you only have one session, then you go straight into races, so you just have to make sure you're paying attention to the kart, paying attention to your driving, putting the kart in the right spot, and then just trying to translate that all to your tuner so you can have the right setup going in the first heat.
Now you have a lot of experience here at GoPro. You have been in the seat lately. You've been doing a lot of car stuff when it comes to the MX-5. Now you're back into a kart. You're a little bit rusty, trying to break the rust off, and then we're going to change the track on you. Is anything translate over? Is it a whole new learning curve?
I've been keeping the dust off. I've been doing the club stuff here, so I'm leading the points in the club. So I'm pretty familiar with this track and what it provides, so I'm pretty confident going into this race.
Now, is the pill draw scary at all, or you're just going to full send on the inside?
The pill draw is a little bit scary. I wish we did a qualifying. The random grid is a little sketchy, but we'll see how it goes.
All right, that is Weston Workman. We're going to come around here and see if we can't find anyone else to talk to. A little bit hard to see here with the glasses on, but we're going to find a few drivers here and there. See if we can't find John Burke. Where's John Burke at? There he is. How you doing, Mr. Burke? You got your helmet on, ready to go? You staying warm?
Oh, yeah, it's quite cold out here tonight.
Now, do you think the temperature change? It's last time we ran this one was in the summertime. This is in the fall time. Do you think it's going to play any difference of a factor than it did last year?
I actually didn't get to run the race last year, so I'm not sure. So we're about to find out.
Now, we've been telling everyone, asking everyone, how much of this track change has made a huge difference to you? Think you got to figure it out, or is there still more to learn?
Definitely still more to learn, but it was a lot harder than the other short track configuration. Like, I missed the brakes and just went straight off the track in one of the sections.
So with the track change, they also put some barriers out when you do the back part, when you're coming on from the concrete back on the normal parts of the track. It's a little bit close. It's right on the edge between the grass and the pavement. Do you think anyone's going to clip that barrier? And if so, who do you think it's going to?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot there. I don't think anyone will hit it. I hope not.
All right, there.
Nice, clean racing.
There it is, John Burke. It's going to be nice, clean racing here. And we're going to do back to a stagnant track here. If we have anyone else we're going to talk to, we're going to back to you live on Kart Chaser.
I mean, this weekend hasn't been the best weekend, so hoping we can bounce back. You know, said it once, but didn't really happen. So going for $4,000 here and hope we can make it happen.
Now, we've been asking a couple guys to get out of the way here real quick. Do you think the pill draw is going to be a little sketchy, or how do you think it's going to pan out?
I mean, I pulled 13, so it'll be good for one race and got to dig in the other.
Sorry, we're going to come over here. Get out of the way here real quick. Oh, we got 1 minute. We're going to let him go here. Again, that was Jeremy Fletcher. He's going to get underway starting at the back of the grid in the 13th spot. We're going to have to go live here soon on track, so stay tuned as we're going to have a little bit of a hectic race still yet to come.
Sweet. After like 10 minutes, your shoulders die on this.
Well, it's about that time. We've got a look of what the order is going to be here, so we'll go ahead and pull up the live timing to give you an idea of where they're going to stack up. Again, like we said, it's a pill pick for heat number 1. 10 laps for the CNC Performance Engineering KA Shootout. Heat number 1, the order they go out in right now, well, it'll be inverted for heat number 2. Joining us in the booth, Ryan Norberg here. And we talked to you already on the grid, and, well, it's another night that you're not racing, so we might as well have you up here to give you some time.
Of course, man. I love being able to announce with you guys. Obviously, watching this, talking about that inverted heat number 2. all these drivers that are up front, he'll pick that, front position like Hayden Jones and Christian Miles. They got to make this one count. This is a very important heat race. Starting in the back is difficult, and you want to be able to make this one count, so you got a good starting spot for that final.
And you'd think in theory, right, that ultimately I would imagine it'd probably be better to start in the back for the first heat when guys still don't really know. When we get to this second heat, everyone's going to have a little better go-kart, drive the track a little bit better. It should be, in theory, a little bit harder to come through the field. Whereas in heat number 1, the guys out front, they're really not any bit better than the guys out back.
No, I agree. I think that's a good point you make there. But, obviously you want to start somewhere in the middle. I think that's obviously, it's risky on the start, but you got a good shot both heats. You can get a solid top 5 each one, and then you can go from there, and you have almost a guaranteed good starting spot for the final.
Well, for Kart Sport North America, they're giving us a little bit of extra juice for each of the heat races. $500 up for grabs for Heat 1 winner and for the Heat 2 winner as well, along with the 4K. So if someone sweeps the night, which would be a big ask, it could be a $5,000 payday. But Hayden Jones and Christian Miles will make up row number 1 here for the opening heat race, which means they start tail end Charlie for heat number 2. Paulie Massimino and John Burke will make up the second row in the first heat race. Lucas Zabo and Chase Hand, row 3. Travis Varney, the fan vote winner, starts on the inside of row 4 in 7th. Weston Workman 8th, Aiden Levy 9th, Alex Stanfield 10th, Tyler Wettengel, Connor Zillish, Jeremy Fletcher, and starting tail end of the field is going to be Finnegan Bailiff. So here we go. The 14 driver, CNC Performance Engineering, KA Shootout, coming to the green flag for the very first heat race of the night. Under the lights at GoPro Motorplex. Miles with a little nose out in front. He has to back off. Hayden Jones with a great jump there down to turn 1. He'll bring third place. Paulie Massimino with him into second.
It's going to be interesting to see here in turn 3 the first time they've actually gone at race speed, and we already have a couple going wide.
Lots of contact. Chase Jones got all kinds of jacked up there with Travis Varney, and they both lose a lot of time as Jones is going to block into the hairpin. Christian Miles way sideways on the inside, and Paulie Massimino over-unders him, gets back through, and here's the new section, the other part of the new section of the racetrack that nobody knows where everybody's going to be at, but we're underway here with 10 to go.
And the toughest spot to be in is in Hayden Jones' position. When you're leading the group through that new section, you did have that practice session, but your nerves are high. Everybody's racing. This is a difficult spot to be in because you got to show everybody around the racetrack, and you have no idea where you're going.
And you just made a lot of changes to the go-kart. Everyone was making chassis changes. I'm sure there were some other changes going on in that gap, so the kart's a little bit new. You got an outlap, and that's it. And still, like you said, Ryan, they're learning the track, learning where they can pass as Christian Miles gets by Massimino for second here going to turn number 5. And look at that. Levy's going way on the inside of Lucas Zabo. He'll get by him to inside the top 5, Caleb, as they head through the new section of the racetrack once again.
It's a little bit more on the down low than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit more hectic here on the start. Everyone's trying to maybe get the wave towards the front. The back markers who draw towards the back, like you said, starting up front, they're trying to just make sure that they can recover a good position before they average them out, that they can have a good run overall. As we see the top 2 pass on the inside, up on the curb.
Wow, Christian Miles, talk about a send and a half, and Hayden Jones trying to give it back to him. I think he was a little bit caught off guard, maybe not too happy with the way the rookie was driving him there, but, it's a bump and run, it's a dive and run. Sometimes, Ryan, if you got speed, you can get by him however you need to get by him.
Yeah, and the drivers who got speed right now are Jeremy Fletcher and Tyler Wettengel. Both of those drivers have both picked up 6 positions in like 3 laps around this tight racetrack. They're doing a good job. They picked a bad spot to start this weekend or to start this race, and they're moving through the field pretty quick.
Yeah, they're digging. So while Christian Miles leads, right, again, he started at the front, so he's got his work cut out for him for later on in the evening here with 7 to go, 3 down. Where's the update on everybody else? Aiden Levy goes purple, 2/10 better than the leaders. He's in 5th there, you can see on the overhead, closing in as it's a 4-car train. And now, in the case of Christian Miles, again, doing that dive on Hayden Jones, it kind of flips, right? Now Jones finally gets to learn a little bit, and Miles isn't getting away as we see a pass back behind him for 3rd. And it was a little bit rough getting by, but John Burke is through on Massimino. Massimino back on him. Burke and Massimino backing up. Now here comes the back marker drivers that started way back on the pill pick. The top 2 get away, and there's a lot of points up for grabs, 3rd on back.
But what's crazy is these drivers are, these back drivers, they're dropping 3-4 positions a lap. That's showing how hard this track is racing. Shows that when you get offline, you pay for it.
Oh! And a spinner. Zabo's into the wall in turn 1. He went low to follow Aiden Levy down low, and then I think there was more contact as they blocked down low, and he locked it up. We saw Christian Miles nearly clean out Paulie Massimino on the opening lap, getting by him,
locking the brakes up. And the same deal here in turn 1. Just, it's so cold. I mean, everyone's got jackets on, Ryan. At this point, the go-kart is way different than where it was earlier in the day.
It is super sketchy right now, but Connor Zilic going to the inside of Finnegan Bailiff. He had a rough start. He didn't really have the pace in those first couple laps, but he's really turned on the jets right now. Connor Zilic has worked themselves into the 7th position, and he's got the kart. He's got some speed right now.
So we're halfway into heat number 1. The top 2 starting to pull away. We'll see if we can, again, tune into some of those more battles through the rest of the field. Like you said, it was Zilic, 6 spots gained, 7 gained for Finnegan Bailiff, both of them coming from the back of the grid, and they're in the middle of a pretty big dogfight here with Aiden Levy headed into the hairpin. So your leaders coming out of turn number 8. Here they come towards us over by turn number 9. Miles and Jones, then it's Massimino, then Burke. That's all stabilized. It's out back that is starting to really get a little bit chaotic with 4 laps to go at the stripe, and Christian Miles starting to pull away.
Now, Ryan, I know you come from the Florida area, but you do have some experience. How much does a cold play a factor in this race right now, especially on new tires?
Well, it really just makes you tight as a driver. I mean, obviously you're already nervous. It's at night. Everything feels a lot faster, but being cold, at least for me, always adds a little element of just, being tight out there and not being super confident with the go-kart. But right now, somebody who is confident is Christian Miles out front. He's leading this race like a pro. I mean, he's just showing how to get it done on this new track. He has no experience on this before this race, and he's out there leading this race. He's not looking back, and he's just able to steadily keep that distance on Hayden Jones.
It's super impressive. We're going to be pulling away from Hayden Jones, who has experience in this shootout format dating back to last year on both days. So Hayden Jones knows what it's like to be in this position, Ryan, to be in this pill pick situation. In the case of Christian Miles, not letting it get to him. I mean, you saw him on the walkout on the stream as well. He just seems kind of cool, calm, collected, together, ready to do business with 2.5 laps to go. Here's that group further back. Zilic and Bailiff, they have been hauling the mail. 7 and 8 spots gained to 5th and 6th. And again, they start near the front row in Heat 2. They're going to be looking really, really good.
Someone else farther back in the field, Aiden Levy up 1 position, and Weston Workman, who started originally in 8th, has fallen back 2 spots. We talked to him earlier. He says he's just trying to learn. There was a nice pass on the inside around Aiden Levy. Levy's not going to fall back.
Did you see the curb it Jeremy Fletcher just got? He popped off the front tire probably a foot off the ground, trying to find some more speed here as we go back up front towards the top of the grid. Here's Massimino and Burke with 2 laps to go, battling for P3. And if they battle a little bit, Connor Zilic from the back of the grid could be looking at a really good spot here in heat number 1, while Christian Miles and Hayden Jones continue to show the way here, a lap and a half to go.
Yeah, last lap, John Burke got by Pauly Massimino, and that kind of slowed those 2 drivers up right now. John Burke's doing a good job staying ahead of Pauly Massimino, but he's got Connor Zilic, a driver who's got more experience than anybody around this racetrack. I mean, this driver knows the situation. He was in it last year. Unfortunately, I took him out last year, but he's got some redemption on his mind, and he's got some speed right now. So he's a driver I'm looking at. He's trying to get up in the top 3 just so he can get a good starting spot for that final.
He could be looking really good. Look at Hayden Jones down the inside there with a wild yell from the crowd, and now they go to the hairpin for the final time. Miles half a car back. Jones going to block down the inside. New section coming up.
And Connor Zilic going to the inside of Pauly Massimino. A little bumping going on. Pauly holds it around the outside, and Connor's going to lose a position now to Alex Stanfield. They're going 2 by 2 through the double right. Connor Zilic holds on to that 7th position. Maybe he fell back 1 more spot. It looks like no, he came out in 5th position.
And here they come the leaders.
Final Finnegan turn. In the wall.
Oh, man, big contact back there. Jones will win the heat race over Christian Miles, and Finnegan Bailiff pounding the wall coming out of turn number 10. Finn Bailiff was up inside the top 5, or battling to get to the top 5. He ends with a big crash as they battle back for 3rd and pounds the wall here in heat number 1. So they've got damage repair to do. He'll get back going, but at this point, everybody's gotten by him. And so Finnegan Bailiff is just going to cruise around, unfortunately, with a damaged go-kart. At least he'll get to start at the front. That's another thing, Ryan. You got a little experience on of, starting good in one heat and maybe not so good in the other.
Well, though, it's not only, not finishing the race that's not good. It's crashing the go-kart. I mean, again, I can speak from experience crashing the go-kart in one of these heat races. 10 minutes is not enough time to really thrash on a go-kart and to get it all back to perfect, top running condition. And so, obviously, finishing last, that hurts, but having the sting of having to repair your go-kart in 10 minutes is even worse.
There's a lot going on here. We're going to take a commercial break, folks, but that does it. Heat 1, Hayden Jones, your winner over Christian Miles with a good last lap pass to get it done. When we come back, More from the CNC Performance Engineering KA100 Shootout from the beautiful GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. Under the lights, Heat 2 and more thrashing on the grid here to come.
USA, a top-level performance team with unmatched hospitality, offering a full-service driver development program with year-round testing available in Miami, Florida, and the official North America racing team of Parolin Racing Chassis. Chassis and parts available at ParolinUSA.com.
Massive turnouts, world-class venues, and an awesome family-friendly atmosphere. All of these and more are pillars of the U.S. Pro Kart Series, which is gearing up for its biggest season yet in 2023. Orlando, Houston, Newcastle, Cincinnati, and Mooresville. Welcome to the top level of North American karting. Welcome to the U.S. Pro Kart Series.
You started in the back of the field, drove your way back up through it. Talk us through what happened there in the start and how you were able to work your way up through the field.
Yeah, it was a bit of a messy start. I had a good turn one, and then some bobbles in turn three put me back a little bit. But I just kept my head down and was patient, right? Last year I started on the pole in both shootouts just through patience and just having a decent finish in both heats is really what matters. So a fifth place finish there. I wish I could have gotten John or Paulie on that last lap, but just I think we'll be good for this heat. We start third, so just keeping it clean and having a decent starting spot for the main is really all I care about.
Now, going on through it, you obviously are all learning here after your first C. You only had 8 minutes when it came time for the practice. What changes do you think you're going to make on it?
You know, we hit the gear pretty perfectly straight into practice. We made a good guess, I guess you could call it. And, you know, there's a lot of differences here because the lack of straightaways on this layout. So we had to change quite a bit. But, you know, I think going into this next run, I think we're just going to leave it. I see everyone else working their butts off to try and go faster. So, you know, I think if we just leave it and stay where we're at, I think I'm going to be good.
All right, that's Connor Zillich. We're going to find some more people to talk to. We're coming back as we go, but for now, that was Connor Zillich. We're going to get some more going on here, but 10 minutes is all they have to work on these karts. We'll see if we can't talk to a few more drivers, see who else is going to be some big contender this afternoon, so stay tuned.
So again, awesome view here of the paddock area, and you can see everybody going to work a little bit more. Lots of work to be done for Finnegan Bailiff. Hard to tell exactly what the damage was to that go-kart. We're going to get him and see if we can chat with him here. Caleb, what you got?
All right, so we're here. Finn, tell us what happened on the last lap and what damage happened to your kart.
Yeah, I think it was only 2 tie rods, so we got lucky there. But coming through the tight section over there, I just turned in a hair too early, clipped the barrier, and then it sent me in the other one. Kart handled, felt fine after. Just a couple of bent tie rods. Should be good now.
So what did you learn from that first you're going to take into the second one?
It's all or nothing.
All right, all or nothing. We're going to send it back to the booth with you, Xander. We're going to try to get a couple more guys before the 10 minutes are up.
Thanks, Caleb. Here again, Finn Bailiff. Obviously, he's kind of do or die at this point with a last place result. At least he gets to start up near the front of the field here for the second heat. That's a whole lot better than having a worse starting spot. But ultimately here, again, a lot of work to do for Finn. So hopefully he can get that kart rolling in this heat. And again, like Ryan said, it's not a lot of time to thrash with a crash here in the heat races. That's the toughest part of the entire deal, is you just don't have a lot of time to fix anything that breaks. So, you know, they're working everything they can. The TKG group putting a lot of effort in to try and get Finn back going, back into the show, back in contention. Ultimately, though, it's just really, really tough in this time crunch, and that's what makes it so entertaining for us here on the sidelines to watch it all the way through. Either way, here's a good look over at Hayden Jones and company, taking another look at the go-kart, and maybe a couple little changes going on there. Looks like tightening back up on the sprocket guard, so I think they're going to be putting that one back together, and then you can see them loosening the bead locks, making a few more little minor adjustments, but not a lot for the RPG Cosmic grouping as they make their way over around. We'll continue to keep showing you all the action going on live here from Gopher Motorplex. Look at this. Lots of stuff going on over here on the Speed Concepts Racing CRG for Paulie Massimino. You can see it looks like maybe a front end change along with a gear change here right underneath down by the right rear tires. So cool stuff for them as they're making a few more adjustments on his piece to try and get him a little bit better. He was top 5 pace that time. They want to win this deal. $4,000 up for grabs. $500 already to the way at Christian Miles. We'll see if we can chat with him as well. $500 on the way to Hayden Jones, of course. Sorry, Christian Miles second there, but he's looking really good for this first heat with a second place result. $500 to Hayden Jones. $500 more up for grabs here for heat number 2 to see who can win this one. And we've got a lot of different overall. And now let's take it over to a team owner, turned team owner anyway, from a racer last year.
All right, so Brandon Jarsacrack, you were in this one last year when it came time for the X30. Now you're a team owner, unfortunately not in a seat. What advice are you giving people right now?
Just stay out of trouble. Try and make your way to the front when you start in the back. If you start in the front, obviously stay up there. Just kind of bide your time in the heat races, finish, and then have a good starting spot for the final.
Now you got Christian Miles under your tent right now. What advice are you giving him?
Just stay out of trouble. Stop looking back for one, and go to the front.
Now, do you think it's going to be a little bit more challenging for him being farther back in the field, or do you think he's maybe have a catbird seat to see some instance like we saw in the Heat 1?
I think as long as it looked like it got a little hairy in turn 2 on the start, as long as he stays out of that, I think he's okay because we got really good pace and he's been driving good. So I think as long as he stays out of trouble in the first lap, I think he'll make his way front and then have a good starting spot for the final.
All right, there it is. A veteran himself, one of the few drivers actually competing in this event. We're going to send it back to you, Xander, receiver camp, maybe possibly get a few guys here before we go back underway.
Thanks, Caleb. We'll continue to take a look. Here is a look at the LN kart team for Christian Miles, the only MDR BJR entry in the field, and they're taking a look there at the data and just kind of, again, like Brandon said, you got to stay out of trouble. You got to survive the heats. He did that in Heat 1. He's got a little more work to do in Heat number 2. Let's go back in to take a look at the TKG camp with a lot of front-end work. Like Finn Bailiff said, he hoped it looks like it's just 2 bent tie rods, so hopefully that's not too big of an ask for them to fix the TKG Kart Republic for Finnegan Bailiff and get him all suited and booted and back into the show. But they're working on that deal. There's Coy Arbor, the mechanic for Thomas Neveau and X30 Pro, helping out the group, and that's the coolest part of this event is focusing on one class. You get a lot of help from a lot of different camps. If it's a big team with drivers in multiple classes, you see them come and have everybody help on the grid here. Now let's go down to Aiden Levy. He's here with Caleb, and, well, that was a decent heat for him. Caleb, what you got?
So, Aiden, you were running about mid-pack all race long. It looked like you were starting to get up towards the mix, and then you were kind of just maintaining your spot. What changes do you think you got to make going into heat race number 2?
We're going to add some gear and lower the tire pressure. So you're a little too quick at first. So.
Now, what are your thoughts so far about how they do the pill draw as opposed to doing normal qualifying? I know it raises the excitement, but as a driver, what are your honest thoughts on it?
I mean, I think it's cool. It's just something different we don't normally get to do here. So I think this is a great event and something different. I love it.
All right, there it is. Aiden Levy had a
Just happy to be in it, you know. It's so hard to do this, and just happy to be here.
There it is. Aiden Levy is happy to be here, running about in the mid-pack to try to make his way farther up when it comes time to hear race number 2, Xander.
Well, the 1-minute command has been given, so it's time to get set for more action here. Ryan Norberg back with us in the CNC Performance Engineering KA Shootout booth. Let's take it to the starting lineup here for heat number 2. Finnegan Bailiff will lead them off here out of the grid on the pole with Jeremy Fletcher's RPM Tony Kart starting to the outside of the front row. So 0 to maybe hero here for Finn after ending heat number 1 in the outside wall. Connor Zilish out of the best run out of everyone in the back of the field to get rolling forward up until the way it all kind of unglued for him in the final couple laps with that battle for 5th on back. He starts 3rd. To his outside will be Tyler Wettengel in the Speed Concepts Racing OTK. Alex Stanfield will roll off 5th. He had a decent opening heat. Not great, not bad for the 906 GWR Tony Kart. Then it's Aiden Levy starting 6th. Weston Workman in the Timmy Tech Comp Kart. Decent heat after coming back from contact in turn number 3. He was the only real casualty on the first lap as they got into it with Travis Varney, who will start on the outside of him in 8th here for heat number 2. Chase Hand will start in 9th, Lucas Zabo 10th, John Burke 11th, Paulie Massimino 12th, Christian Miles and Hayden Jones are front row and top 2 from heat 1 to the rear of the field here for heat number 2.
And I think one thing we learned from watching this race is that this track actually, even though it is tight, it races pretty well. There's a lot more passing zones than even I thought. Even that left-handed kink there before you head down into the hairpin, that one has never been a passing zone. But you see, I saw 2 or 3 guys. Connor Zilic was making quite a few passes in that corner. So I think that's really interesting to see that this track is actually opening up and becoming a lot more racy than we originally thought.
100%. I mean, to me, it looks like, especially from this section on, how quick the drivers have to be with their hands, a lot like a rhythm section. And so it's very fast. For as short of a layout as it is, the speeds are still pretty high. This new section still has pretty high speeds. You're going into that hairpin with the same center speed, but the braking zone's shorter, I think, or at least pretty similar. And then turn 3, again, it's a hairpin, it's a passing zone, but it's fast. It's a very fast and racy short track. Under the lights, heat 2. Let's get to it. Finn Bailiff on the inside, Jeremy Fletcher on the outside. Turn 1, we're green down to the first corner.
They're going to go side by side all the way through. It looks like Finn got a little washed up there, but he is going to maintain the point as they make the way into turn 3. Finn's going to hold on to it. Here comes Zilic up right behind him. So Connor Zilic now goes up into P number 2.
Quickly and decisively, here goes Zilic to the bumper of Finn Bailiff. Bailiff's going to go low. Zilic will block as well. Everybody makes it through cleanly so far here to start this one. No big contact like we saw at the start of heat number 1. So they're all clean. There's some contact. Levy into the side of Wettengel. Everybody backs out of it. Stanfield backs out as well. There's single file through that section. That's the other thing. You have to kind of make that pass and then get clear. Here's a pass for the lead. Connor Zilic will lead lap 1 as he gets by Finn Bailiff.
Connor Zilic signaling to Finn Bailiff, let's work together, let's try and get away. He watched Hayden Jones and Christian Miles not race the entire race until those last 2 laps, and they were able to pull a huge gap on the rest of the field. It's like you're talking about, Xander, it is a rhythm track, so when you get a good rhythm going, you get a good vibe going in this KA100 senior class, you can pull away from the field, and right now Connor Zilic is looking to do that. Finn Bailiff makes a little bit of a mistake, and now Jeremy Fletcher is breathing down his neck.
And 2 things about that, right? First, the flip side of what you said is see more passing back behind outside the top 5. When you get out of rhythm, it's really hard to get back in it. There's no time to breathe. The other part that I wanted to mention here, we don't know how much Finn Bailiff is fighting with one arm behind his back. With the contact, the broken tie rods, potentially tweaked go-kart, we don't really know any of that. We got problems on the front straightaway. Oh no, one of the OTKs, that is Jeremy Fletcher slowing into turn number 1 with a motor problem.
Oh, that is just so disappointing. He drove so well in that first heat, was able to move up quite a bit, and now, that is just going to set him super far back going into this next race. But it looks like Chase Hand making a move down to the inside on Weston Workman, and there's Hayden Jones, who started in P1 in the previous heat, driving from the back. He's looking to get by Weston Workman here soon. 2 more corners, it looks like he's going to make his way by.
Oh, not even 2, and he gets him into the wall, and there goes Miles into the grass. Oh, man, and now Workman's going to come under fire, so hopefully Workman didn't get too much damage. He tapped the tire or the plastic barrier on the outside. Here's a pass. Massimino on Travis Varney. He gets by there. That's in the midfield here, so he'll move himself up a spot. And, again, it's chaos in the opening laps, a lot of franticness and different strategies. Like Jarsagrak said, you just got to survive right now, it seems, here as Burke leads Levy out of the hairpin with Stanfield right behind, hunting down the leading duo. Oh, more contact.
Down.
Big cut, big flip coming out of the turn 8 hairpin. Who is that up? That was Lucas Zabo up and over. Workman's involved. Varney's involved.
We really just hope that driver's okay. That was a nasty wreck right now. It looks like he's standing, so that's definitely a good sign. But right now we have Connor Zilic leading the pack down the back straightaway. He's got a little bit of a lead over Finnegan Bailiff. It looks like we're kind of watching Heat 1 all over again, where the top 2 drivers kind of separate from the rest of the field.
So Finn Bailiff looks good, and, man, the midfield's just going to be crazy here from this way on out. So there goes the leaders on by, and then third on back is going to be a good battle, I think, here. Tyler Wettengel has John Burke bearing down on him. Burke up 7 spots. John Burke looking really good here to position himself. It nearly goes by him there in that quick double right-hander where we saw a pass made there by your teammate Hayden Jones that caused Workman to go backwards, and then from there I think they got into it as Varney was getting under fire into turn number 5 on this racetrack. So into turn 1, battle for third looming, although Wettengel turning the wick up. He was faster than the leaders by 2/10.
I think something else you're going to see here again, 10 minutes to fix whatever damage is done. That looks like it could be a hefty amount of work that has to get done. I think there's never been a time when there's a pass on the inside there. As Burke's able to get around, he gets passed back immediately. But as I was saying before, the crew has 10 minutes.
They're still going at it. Burke runs Wettengel wide, and here's Stanfield, and here comes the cavalry. Jones now going
and John Burke fighting that pass. Sometimes when you fight a pass, Ryan, it doesn't pay off. That time it did. He sent them back, but they're going to come here in about another lap right back to him.
It paid off, and Alex Stanfield was really the biggest beneficiary of that because not only did he get to pick up a spot, but he's inched a bit closer into that top 3 fight right now. It looks like it's John Burke in 3rd and then Alex Stanfield in 4th. Those two are, I mean, in my opinion, should work together and try and catch up to these next top 2 drivers.
Yeah, I mean, they were making headway here right before when Burke went by. That's what kind of threw them to the wayside, and the top 2 got going as well. Bailiff and Zillich started to work together. Now here's Jones to the bumper of Tyler Wettengel. We'll see what he does. Wettengel, I'm sure, would love to get back to John Burke. The thing about these heat races, again, you don't know who's going to start where for the final, so if you really get into a guy in these heats, Ryan, he might line up next door to you in the main event as well.
Oh, I know all about that. You want to keep your friends, you want to have some friends going into the finals at least, they don't drive you off. But right now, it looks like we're just watching a replay of that first heat.
Oh, man, Hayden Jones, holy send and a half.
That was
down
Chase
the
Hand.
inside.
Chase Hand down to the inside.
You're right, Jones in the back. That was Hand down the inside on Wettengel, giving it back to him. Wettengel now blocks. Here's Jones on Levy. And so Chase Hand, that was a nice move to get that spot back. And again, if you can throw that guy back to the wolves behind you, sometimes he gets eaten up as Jones goes to the inside of Wettengel now.
I was talking to Chase Hand in between the heats, and he was telling me, even though he didn't really get a chance to show his speed, he felt comfortable with the kart. He felt confident in it, and he didn't want to make any changes going to this next race. And right now he's showing that he is pretty confident in this go-kart. He's able to make some nice moves to position himself for a good starting spot for that final.
So 2 laps to go now. The leader's long gone here from this battle for 3rd on back. It's still raging on. We'll try and catch everything. There's stuff going on all over the racetrack now, but less go-karts at least, with a big crash there for Szabo, for Workman, and more that all got collected along with Varney. So there's Hand going through. He's in 5th. Good drive forward for Chase Hand. 4 spots up. Jones up 8 from dead last to 6. He's looking good with points-wise as well. There's Massimino going through the section. And here we go. White flag for the lead. Zillich leads Bailiff by 3 car lengths.
Making their way down into turn 1. They continue to pull away. I don't think that second group's going to be able to catch back up. Like I said, 2 laps to go. There's going to need something out of the top half from both Burke and Stanfield. They had the opportunity to catch back up. They took a couple laps to pass back and forth in that second group, and now it's costing them dearly here on the last lap.
I doubt it, but I think Finn Bailiff was backing off a little bit there. I saw him look over his shoulder, take a big look back. He knew he was safe, and he just signaled, let's work together. Let's finish this race. I just need points at this point. He started dead last. He needs another good finish just so that he can get, a good starting spot for that final.
And he's getting to learn a lot from how quick Connor Zillich has been. So final corner, Connor Zillich, $500. He'll win. Heat number 2, Bailiff 2nd, 3rd to Burke, 4th to Stanfield, 5th Chase Hand, purple. Fastest driver on the racetrack on the very final lap. Ryan, you might be right. It looks racy. Made up some more spots in that one. So good finishes for Chase Hand here in heat number 2. Puts him pretty good here for the main. And again, looking at drivers with enemies here. Tyler Wettengel versus John Burke might be a storyline coming into this main. And we got to hear, obviously, from these kids. Unfortunately, a lot of work in 10 minutes to try and fix these karts up. You can see them assessing the damage. Lucas Szabo, Travis Varney, Weston Workman doing everything they can. Szabo looks like the left front and the right front tie rod completely broken there. The whole front end of that go-kart's going to need a lot of loving. I think Travis Varney might be all right, but again, Szabo went up and over, flipped. So it could be a wholesale of changes and fixes for him. And here we zoom in on Travis Varney. He's checking out the damage on his Forward Direction Motorsports comp kart. Not a great second heat for him, but Lucas Szabo, especially the biggest loser out of that whole deal.
And the one thing that the people back home might not know is that when you get off the racetrack, there is a rule that these drivers have to get off the racetrack and get through the scales before anyone can touch their kart. Those 10 minutes are 10 minutes if you came in the scales first and you weighed first, or if you came in the scales last. So all the drivers are getting 10 minutes to get their karts fixed and get them ready for that next race.
Well, the RPM guys, they're going to have to scramble. We're going to send Caleb Smock on down to go and talk to some more. But again, let's break down what we do know here from both heat races so far with everybody through the grid. Again, obviously we know Lucas Szabo, Weston Workman, and Travis Varney, a lot of work to do for them. Through everybody else, we can see in heat 2, Chase Hand looked pretty good. Jones was fast. They were getting racy. Wettengel, I feel like he's probably going to feel like he got bullied more than anything in that one.
Oh, for sure. That's definitely, a thing he's going to be thinking about, and that's what you're talking about. You want to have some friends on the racetrack because when you go into the final and you're blocking, you don't want that guy to send you. But right now, I mean, Connor Zilic looks to be the guy to beat, in my opinion. Even though he wasn't the fastest driver on the racetrack, a 41.0, completely alone. Actually, he did a 40.9 completely alone. The fastest time is only a 40.8. So, that's definitely a good run for him. I don't know what the starting order is. We don't have that list right in front of us, but definitely the race is going to come down to Connor Zilic, John Burke, Alex Stanfield, Hayden Jones, and possibly Chase Hand. I don't know where he finished in that first heat, but if he's got a good starting spot, he's got the speed, he can possibly compete for this final win.
And there was problems for Christian Miles also in this heat here. So you can see the MDR BJR camp. They're waiting on him to get through the scales. They're waiting on Fletcher to go through and weigh. He'll be able to get through. And then there's Christian Miles right behind him. His transponder stopped scoring if he did finish, but we didn't catch it. I don't think he ended up finishing that one. We know Fletcher didn't finish as well. So they're held up till the field comes in. Once they roll Fletcher through, that 10-minute clock will start. But not sure what was the issue for either one. So a lot of drivers with a lot of work to do. And you can see all the conversations going on behind. Hard to always kind of understand of whether or not those are good conversations or bad conversations. And, again, you and I both had a lot of both.
Yeah, I mean, these drivers are speaking with their hands. So I'm trying to make out what they're doing. One guy's saying, I was on the inside, you were on the outside. Yeah, I mean, these drivers are just trying to figure out what they're going to do for this final. But, drivers like Jeremy Fletcher, Christian Miles, they're not out of it. I mean, you and I both know. We've watched how these races turn out. And in those last couple laps, it gets hairy. I mean, you could be 5-6 positions back from the leader, and you still have a great shot at winning the race with like 2 laps to go. So these drivers definitely aren't out of it. It's just a matter of can they get the kart fixed in time.
That's absolutely it. Well, let's go through and we can manually calculate a little bit of what we do know, right? So in that first heat, obviously, for Connor Zilic, he drove from the back up to 5th and then won here in heat number 2. So he looks really, really solid. John Burke, top 5 in both heats, a 4th and a 3rd. That would put him at 7 points to Zilic's 6. And then also at 7 points, I believe, would be Hayden Jones with a win, and then 6th place here in heat number 2. Sometimes with the heat point calculations, they'll give a little extra bonus to the winner, of course. They'll go 0 points for the win, 2 points for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way on back. So all 3 of those, Burke, Zilic, and Jones, really, really good results. Chase Hand, 9th in the first heat, not so great. 5th in that one, so he should be about mid-grid or so. But there's also a lot of shakeups, right, where Chase Hand, you think 5th to 9th, shoot the middle, he starts 7th. All the wrecks is going to move him probably up to 4th or 5th.
Oh, it definitely will. And, again, I just want to I keep stressing that you're never out of this. We see these drivers working together in this race. That's because they don't want to crash. That's because there's $4,000 on the line, and there's no reason to crash in this first heat. But all that pushing that we see, I doubt that's going to take place in this final. I mean, those drivers are going to be blocking, sending it on one another, and it's going to stack the field up pretty hard. I mean, a driver like Chase Hand, who didn't have necessarily a first good heat, but he is fast, is going to have a great opportunity at this. He's just got to get through those first opening laps, and then he can make something work towards the end of the race.
And one thing also that's interesting, and part of this is just the tires kind of fading away a little bit. The fastest lap time of 40.79 in heat 1, a 40.83 in heat number 2. In heat number 2, the field, I think, average was a little bit better, but the overall quickest time was a little bit slower. Overall, the times are going to even out, right? That's the difference of going from the 2nd heat cycle to the 3rd heat cycle, and then obviously making changes on the go-kart and driving to go a little bit better as well. So that kind of balances out where we end up around the same lap times, and then we add 5 more laps on to the main event. There's so much racing going on, and you're making all these changes to the go-kart. There still also needs to be a focus on tire pressure because you don't want to come in too early or too late for a 15-lapper versus a 10-lapper.
There is, and the biggest thing that you're looking at is like you might set the pressures at whatever, let's say 10. When you go out for this next race, you're working with hot pressures from here on out. So if you set it back down to 10, that's more like 8, and you've got to take these calculations into consideration when you're doing your tire pressure. These things, 10 minutes is not enough time. I mean, these tires are scalding hot, especially after 2 sessions like that. They're burning up, so these tire pressures are not going to be able to come down in time. I don't really see anybody like last year who's dunking their tires.
I was going to say the water bottles from last year, with how cold it is, I guess they're not thinking that's as big of a deal this year. I don't know.
I think it's that, and I also think it's the reds versus the yellows. I think it was a bigger deal in the softer tires because you are trying to save it. I mean, obviously when you're cooling off the tires like that, it kind of hardens the tires as the going wisdom, and you get a little bit more longevity out of it. But yeah, I mean, you're not seeing it a lot. It could just be because it's cold out and it's the red tires versus the yellows.
So we'll see in the scale line start to go through, and you can see, like you said, Ryan, everyone is trying to get those karts onto the stands as fast as they possibly can to then go to work on adjustments and, again, to make sure there's no damage, because we know there's a lot of damage for the guys in the back that came in on the Cruiser. We know there's, unfortunately, engine issues, it looks like, for Jeremy Fletcher, possibly the same for Christian Miles. Two drivers that are going to have a bad result to max out the good one. This was great news, honestly, this heat race for Finnegan Bailiff, because now it looked like after heat 1 that nobody else obviously had a really bad result. A lot of other guys had a really bad result. The whole midfield is going to be completely shaken up.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Finnegan Bailiff start up a lot higher than, we originally thought. I mean, that obviously you're not wishing anybody crashes, but when you see drivers out on the sidelines, it is good for you if you did have a bad heat race, because those are just positions you're picking up, and especially picking up a P2 in that last heat race. That's a good starting spot for him for this final. So definitely a good race for him and a good recovery, after that bad crash.
Yeah, and you can see, again, he looks like in much better spirits after that one, and he got to learn a lot, and he got to hang with Connor Zilisch. Even Travis Varney, the fan vote, he didn't qualify in. The two promoters picks, they were just about 12th to 15th on the point standings. Travis Varney was a little further back. He started to figure out a little more pace-wise and was running better in that second heat tremendously. The whole field's still pretty evenly matched. We've seen, again, we picked out a few outliers who look quick. That kid right there, Connor Zilisch, he looks pretty good so far. And, he just added $500 to the bank account. So that's not a bad way to end off heat number 2. He's down with Caleb.
All right, Connor, we're down here like you didn't have the great starting position in the first heat, which means you had a better one in heat number 2, able to work it to your favor. Walk us through that entire race in a general, but it looked like it was kind of easy for you once you got out in front.
Yeah, I got out front and kind of just rode. It's going to be all about the feature, so you got to save your stuff and have something good for the final. So just, like I said, patience, and now we're on the pole, and now it's time to be patiently aggressive. So just going to do my best, and I know that some people are hungry for this money, so I'm going to off and hopefully have a good race.
Now, $500 is nice, but you'd love to have $4,500 on the start. It's going to be a little chaotic, especially with the temperatures. Turn 3 isn't really rubbered in as much as the other corners are. So mentally going into it, you're going to do anything different?
Nah, I just got to hope the other people don't try and win the race on the first lap. I'm going to go out there and race my race, but I can't control what the other people do.
All right, there it is. Connor Zilisch had a good run here. He got an extra $500 in his bank account. We're going to see if we can't talk to some other drivers that we can pick out one at a time. Back to you, Xander.
So one thing I want to note there is Connor said he's going to be patiently aggressive. Those are two contradictory words, but I understand what he's talking about. As a racer, in these races, you need to be aggressive, but you need to be smart. You could, like you said, you can end your race in one lap. So be patiently aggressive. That makes a lot of sense, and that shows his wisdom, doing this race before. He knows what he needs to do to get a win out of this.
It's such a big mental game, right? Like, you have to be, willing to know when to turn both switches on, but have to have them both at the same time. That's the biggest thing, You need to read the room, really, of the drivers around you and play to how they're playing in a way that benefits you. If they start fighting really, really hard, then you've got to fight hard enough to keep your spot. If they're willing to be patient, you can be patient for a lap and then decide when to pick and when to go. Here's a look at Christian Miles' camp. Lots of deals going on, and it looks like it must have been contact in that wreck as well or something. They are banging on that left rear axle, trying to straighten it. And this is, again, just the engineering you got to do live on the grid. You can see them sledgehammering to try and straighten that axle up, and it's got a crowd around it, and it's just sort of the coolest thing about this event is we get an up-close look. You're not under the big tent. There's no factory kind of walls up in front of you. Everyone's out in the open, and you can see what's going on. And now we're going to hear from him on what went wrong there for heat number 2. Christian Miles, at least he's set to start P5, so a good starting spot here for the main, but ultimately not the way he wanted heat 1 to end. Caleb?
All right, Christian, so you got the straight table next to the cart if you need it. They're banging on the back axle. Tell us what happened that caused it.
Out of the turn 8 hairpin, somebody spun out in front of me, and they spun backwards, and I had nowhere to go, and I ran over top of them and landed back really bad.
Dude, first off, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
And second off, this getting on the table, we're going to get Hayden Jones out of the way, so they are going to put it onto the straight table. Now, what did it feel like as soon as you had the contact? Were you able to finish, obviously, but did it feel entirely off on you?
Well, I could have finished, but I knew that there was no point. The car was pulling to the right really bad, and the axle was really bent, so there was no point in staying out there.
Well, hopefully your crew can get it back underway. I hopefully we can see you on track here soon. And like we said, you're set to start the 5th spot. Hopefully you will here later this afternoon as we're going to send it back to you, Xander, see if we can't grab some more people.
All right, Christian Miles again. He rolls off P5. You can see his, instant reaction hearing that over the loudspeaker where he's going to roll off. So that's probably better than what he was thinking. Sometimes when, the other part about this crazy back-to-back-to-back sessions is getting that, mental neutrality, right? taking the high session, the low session, and quickly resetting. You know, you have a bad second heat, and you don't want to let that just drag you down and get in a bad place when you start the main.
Oh, it definitely doesn't. And, I mean, speaking from experience again, because I have a lot of experience doing this and crashing this stuff, it does weigh on you. I mean, when you crash in one heat, you feel like you have something to prove. You don't have that time to go back to the tent, cool down, talk to your mechanic, and really relax. I was out there, wanted to redeem myself immediately, and then it causes you to be a little bit too eager and a little bit too aggressive, and then you make a mistake. So it is, like you said, it is more a mental game than you would think. I mean, these races, they're quick, and it weighs on you. Every session you go out there, you got more stuff that you're thinking about, and you don't have that time to sit down and decompress.
Yeah, you do not. I mean, it's so tough to reset there. Again, for Connor Zillich, that was important for him. And it's definitely, I feel like, easier to come down off a win than to come back up after a bad session. But even he was like, you know what? Good heat. Glad we did it. Expecting, chaos again. And he was already back to thinking of what it's going to be like here for the main. So we're watching now here. Here's Alex Stanfield's group. And it looks like the GWR Tony Kart camp, well, they're leaving that thing right where it is right now. Caleb, what do you got for Alex?
All right, so it's been a little bit hectic for everyone else. Your pit seems to be a little bit quiet. Tell us about your night so far and what you're going to do going into the future.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have a pretty good go-kart, I think. The heat race went pretty good. The start wasn't very good, but I was working together with Burke and just hung on to fourth. I think we're looking pretty good for the main. We'll see what happens.
So have you made any major adjustments? Obviously, some guys got the straight tables out, so guys have been changing axles, gears. Overall, have you had to change a whole lot?
No, we're not changing much for this final at all.
All right, there it is. John Burke is not changing much for the final. Been kind of quiet all night, but look for him to maybe start to peek his way up towards that front pack. Xander?
Alex Stanfield will start P4 here tonight in the main event. So, again, like he said, not a whole lot of changes. But, again, pay attention to that answer, Ryan. He didn't say what changes they made tonight. He said we're changing nothing from the Heat 2 to the main. Not giving anything away of what they've done to get to where they're at, just that they're in a good spot.
It is a mind game out here. I mean, everybody's talking to one another. The drivers are talking to one another. You're looking for little key things. You know, if the driver says, oh, you beat me off the corner, okay, he has a higher gear than me. You know, you're picking up on these subtle things that drivers are saying to see if you can pick up and find some extra speed. But right now it looks like Caleb's down there with Weston Workman, so we'll send it to Caleb and see what he has to say.
All right, so now, obviously you're not in your suit right now, which is disappointing to see. Tell us what happened on track and what happened to your kart.
I put myself in a bad position. I wasn't blocking enough, and some people got around me, and I lost a lot of momentum, and I was just going backwards. And somebody's chain came off in front of me, and two karts came together, and then I had nowhere else to go, and then that ended my race.
So what all damage happened to your kart? Are you going to be able to get it fixed for the heat races tomorrow?
I think we'll be able to get it fixed for tomorrow, but we won't be able to make the final. The axle's bent, tie rod's bent, chassis might be bent, and then I didn't feel like I had a lot of pace to keep up in the front.
So disappointing night for Weston Workman coming back into a kart. Unfortunately, not have a chance at that $4,000 this afternoon. Back to you guys in the booth.
Thank you, Caleb. Again, unfortunate to hear Weston Workman. Glad to hear he's okay. That was a gnarly crash. We'd love to hear from Lucas Zabo as well because, again, he was the one that went up and over and had heavy, heavy contact with both not only the ground but then slid into the wall as well. And he got up and he seemed okay. You can see John Burke suited and ready to go as well.
In the zone. I mean, we've still got 5 minutes, and he's ready to go. I mean, John Burke did an amazing job in that last race coming from behind. Picked up 8 positions. I mean, that's really impressive. I mean, this is only a 10-lap race, and he was up 8 positions by, like, lap 4. He was driving super well. There you go, Chase Hand right there, sitting with the team, going over everything. You know, I probably should be down there helping out, but sometimes it causes a little more problems than I do, solutions. So I like being in the booth here.
Here's Hayden Jones getting a little pep talk there from his dad as he gets ready and tries to kind of lock in for the show tonight. Hayden Jones has obviously been solid in both of his heat races. Lots of speed, kept his nose for the most part relatively clean. He's set to start second on the outside of row number 1 after the dust has settled from heats 1 and 2. Didn't get the $500 bonus in that second heat race, but he did, of course, in heat number 1. So he's 500 up. Let's send it over to Caleb here and hear from him.
All right, Hayden, you've had a very good night. You started in the front in the first heat race, maintained up in the front. Second one, you were able to make it all the way back up to the front again. You got the odds set in your favor. What are you going to be doing differently from heat race number 1 going into heat race number 1 and 2 going into the future?
Just making sure I stay in the front. You know, you can't fall back because then there's no way you're coming back.
Now, we haven't really talked to you at all tonight. Tell us what you think about this track change so far and how it's handled for you.
It's not like the most favorable, but it'll do for a good show, you know. I mean, good passing opportunities that are brand new, and so we'll see how it races.
It's been a little hectic all night. Are you worried going into the feature?
What do you mean?
I said it's been a little bit hectic all night. Are you worried going into the feature?
I think everyone's anxious, so I'm not worried. I'm just a little anxious.
All right, there it is. He's a little anxious. Hayden Jones set to start P2 this afternoon for the tonight for the feature.
Yeah, there we go. Caleb's obviously getting everybody here, and it's a whirlwind down on the grid. We just got news from Mr. Eric Jones. This purse, just like we expected last year, has been bumped up, Ryan.
It has. It has been bumped up to $5K. So these drivers are going out right now racing for $5,000. One race, $5,000. That is an amazing purse. So big shout out to Eric Jones and the Hunt Brothers Pizza for putting this race on and giving out $5,000 for a heat race. I mean, for a shootout race like this. But Connor Zilich starting on the pole, looking for the $5,000 to come in, and you got Hayden Jones right next to him, another driver who's been super fast. These two drivers, again, were teammates on the Nitro team only a year or so ago, and now they're racing two different organizations side by side, racing for this final victory.
Yeah, what an awesome performance for him so far, right? For Hayden Jones so far, for Connor Zilich so far. John Burke, third. Alex Stanfield, fourth. Christian Miles, fifth. We heard from Weston Workman, not going to run in the feature. I don't know if we'll see Lucas Zabo on the grid. He was set to be at the back, along with Fletcher and Travis Varney as well, so we don't know them. There's Paulie Massimino getting suited up, and now joining us in the booth here, Braden Eves. Braden, you've been watching all this stuff. What's been your take from everything? Is there anyone you think has got an edge over anyone else?
Oh man, what a cool event! Glad to be here to watch. Really cool just to see all the teams thrashing after they bend some stuff and just get everything back together. It was kind of crazy. Somebody got the chassis table out and actually got that done in like half the time he needed. So cool event. Looking forward to the race. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of aggression.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a whole lot of it here. So now that we know, again, we talked with Jeremy Fletcher, the engine issue, unfortunately, it will sideline him here for the main event, so we lose him. We're going to lose Weston Workman. Glad to hear they're okay. They'll be back in the deals tomorrow. This is actually the first time we've seen that here in this. Everyone that ran it last year was able to at least make it through to the show. This is the first time that we've seen a few drivers not even be able to make it back out. And kudos again to Christian Miles and their camp getting the chassis table going. But like you said, Ron, it's such a madhouse in every direction for the driver, for the mental game, from knowing what to ask out of the teams, and the teams just to get the go-karts back on it.
And what you're not realizing is that there's somebody sitting up here and then there's somebody waiting back at the hauler with all the parts. So they're sitting there waiting to get the phone call. What do we need? Tie rods, axles, spindles, what is it? And then they go get it. They bring it. That all plays into the time that they get here, that 10 minutes. There's a lot of time that they're losing just by getting parts here and back, so it's even more impressive to see that they're able to get the carts up front.
Yeah, such a crazy strategy, right? I don't know who was the one that had the call down to roll the whole chassis table down to the grid, or if they had that one just behind the garages to be ready to go, but look at this here. The clear visors are out. This is one of the coolest parts for us from the broadcast cameras, and honestly probably something that the drivers I feel like don't like to have is the ability to see into their eyes and see what everybody looks like under the helmet. We got a great shot there at Connor Zilich as he gets set to go. Hayden Jones, that's the 1 minute warning, boys. It's time to go racing for $5,000, and let's take it through the starting lineup here to kick it off. Again, Connor Zilich and the Team GWR Tony Kart reunited after a couple of years and back with the original team that got him a couple of world titles. He starts on the inside of Hayden Jones on the Rollison Performance Group Cosmic. Row 2, John Burke. Good run tonight, solid run forward, and a great day today in qualifying and winning his heat race. He's got a lot of speed on the major layout. Let's see how he does here tonight. To his outside, they're starting fourth in the 906. Team GWR's got 2 in the top 4. It's Alex Stanfield, recently crowned U.S. Pro Kart Series champion. Christian Miles got that kart fixed up after a great run, P2 in Heat 1, crashed in Heat number 2. He's out on the racetrack starting 5th. We go now to the rest of the grid. Paulie Massimino on that Speed Concepts Racing CRG. Paulie's been kind of quiet, and honestly, through both those heat races. Stayed out of trouble, didn't crash, but didn't have breakout speed either, Ryan.
Paulie was one of those drivers last year who was a big contender, early in the race and early in the weekend. But yeah, like you said, he wasn't necessarily the quickest, but he's keeping his nose clean, and that's giving him that opportunity to race in the final. But Connor Zilich right now going for that $5,000, but I don't know what's weighing on his mind more, the $5,000 to win it or all the push-ups he's going to have to do if he loses it.
Oh my goodness, right? You know it as well. That was where you got your first career national championship in the Pro Division with Gary Willis and with Team GWR, and they've got a very unique way of training drivers.
Yes, they do, but it shows they're getting good results right now, and that's really impressive for their team. But right now, Connor Zilich, slowing the car down, Hayden Jones right on his bumper, and John Burke. I mean, that's a driver who has been pretty fast. He was fast all through practice, and now he's fast during this race. Braden, who do you think's got a good advantage going into this race?
It's so hard to say. I mean, these races are so up in the air. I mean, I like Zilich. I think he's a little bit too patient for me for a pick in a race like this. I think Alex has a good starting position. You kind of almost want to be you don't want to be like the top two, in my opinion. You want to be like that 5th, 6th, to where
under the radar.
Yeah, you get that 1 or 2 positions in the opening lap, and now you have forward momentum, and you can keep it carrying. You don't want to get negative momentum in a short,
sprint race with everybody going all out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, here we go. They're lined up. We're missing a couple, but they're lined for most. About 10 carts have made the final grid, and here we go. We're underway. $5,000. Let's get after it, boys. Down to turn number 1. Does everybody make it through? It's a madhouse. 3 wide up the hill to turn 3. In the grass to the first time, and there's contact. Burke runs Zilich all the way to the wall.
Hayden Jones is going to benefit the most from that. He's taking the lead. Drivers are swapping back and forth. Connor Zilich, your leader to start the race, is now all the way back in the 3rd position. Hayden Jones leading out of the hairpins. John Burke, who's been aggressive already, is going to try and get to the inside of Hayden Jones. He's already looking right now, but he seems like he's going to settle down, and these drivers are going to single file out heading into the last couple corners.
John Burke might be one of those guys I would consider probably the wildest contender in this one. We've seen him be probably the least fearful in all the heat races to make any enemies, to not have any friends, and he doesn't have any friends right now. Nobody's got friends when there's $5,000 on the line, and you can see that as Hayden Jones is blocking already to hold him back. Zilich to the bumper of Burke. What, does he give it back to him? He does. Little contact there in turn number 3.
Connor let him know he did not like that. And now the question is, when is it too early to block? Right now, Hayden's got a little bit of an advantage, but you saw in the first lap, he's already white lining it. He's making sure he's covering his spaces off. And right now, it looks like Connor might have to suck this one up and just try and work with Burke to catch back up to Hayden Jones.
He's got to put the ego aside, right, Braden? As much as he'd want to give it right back to him, now's not the time. They got to keep Hayden Jones within fighting distance here, and John Burke's doing that. He's going to close up. 2 laps complete this time by. Hayden Jones, your leader. John Burke, 2nd. Connor Zilich, 3rd. Down to turn number 1.
Yeah, this is such an important time for John Burke and Connor Zilich to make sure that they make absolutely no mistakes.
All the way to the inside.
What a dive bomb from Burke again, and this time it really hurts Jones. He goes back to 3rd, and now this is the opportunity for Connor Zilich. He's been waiting for this.
Bumper. Hayden up the inside by Tyler Wettengale. Gets all the way up the inside of Hayden Jones.
Oh, man, and look at them all fighting down to turn number 9.
Oh!
Contact, and Jones gets turned sideways in front of the field.
Wow, and that shows you John Burke had that experience coming through the field. He knew how deep he could go in that corner, and he made it stick. And right now, the 2 drivers that made early contact have a good gap on the rest of the field.
Look, there's no better way to script it. The 2 guys that get together and probably have a little bit of bad blood after that first lap are the 2 that get away in a 2-car battle. But again, it's a similar position as what we said a lap ago. Zilich, you saw him point forward to Burke. Ego aside, he knows the gap behind. They've got to work together to keep that gap back to Tyler Wettengale and company while they fight behind him.
That's the more mature move. I mean, obviously there is no money for 2nd. So it's $5,000 for 1st, and you get to go home with your head between your head down because you didn't win anything. So right now, Connor's trying to improve his chances and give him as good as a shot as he can, but a little bit of a mistake out through the chicane section, and John Burke's got a nice lead. Christian Miles down to the inside for the 3rd position.
He'll take that away from Tyler Wettengale as they head down the front stretch here, Braden, but they're going to go side by side again. Wettengale back on Miles. Miles said, fine, you want it, take it, let's go, but we're letting the leaders get further and further away. How frustrating has this got to be here for Christian Miles right now, Braden?
Oh, man, it's so frustrating, especially when you see Connor in 2nd. He's not going to battle John Burke for 1st, and you just need them to battle. You have to be making up ground. That gap is just too big to be, taking off a 10th per lap.
Oh, Aiden Levy getting his elbows out there as he goes on to Wettengale, moves him wide there, and Massimino hanging on there in the 5th spot as they all try and file their way out. Hayden Jones, I think, biggest loser there. He's just trying to get back up in this group. And like you said, Braden, early on, being the fastest, it's a target on your back. Now Wettengale fighting with Levy. He'll go back by in front of him. And I think Tyler Wettengale, he may not be too confident in the pace he's got right now. That's why he's got to be fighting for 4th or 5th because, again, they're outside the money spots, Ryan. You don't imagine why he'd be fighting. Otherwise, he just thinks he's got no speed to hang up there.
I mean, that's obviously his opinion, but, I mean, not the best strategy. Right now, those leaders are so far ahead. I mean, there is no money for 4th. There's no money for 5th. you've got to get in line and you've got to run these guys down. I mean, with 10 laps to go, there's a driver off right now.
Travis Varney off at the exit of the hairpin.
Yeah, but these drivers, I mean, they're checking out right now. Connor is a smart driver. John Burke is a smart driver. These are two champions that you're seeing out in this field, and they're going to show that they know how to get this done and how to pull away from the field. But Christian Miles, he's not that far off. Once these drivers start blocking, which they will, with $5,000 on the line, you will start blocking. That's going to bring Christian Miles in it, and maybe even, Tyler Wettengale. He's a long shot out there right now, but 9 laps to go. It's still a possibility.
Well, let's go to the lap times here. Christian Miles was 1/10 of a second better than the two leaders working together last time by, and Christian Miles' go-kart was basically on the wrecker after heat number 2 with the contact with the crash that took out Varney, Workman, and Szabo, as we see Wettengale again fighting with Levy, again down the inside. Hand trying to go with him as well down the front straightaway, and now they're all going to block into one. Levy's going to follow, and looking around the outside, Stanfield, they're all just trapped behind Tyler Wettengale up the hill to turn 3.
I don't understand what the point of this is. Oh, and Chase
he turns him.
Chase Hand gets all the way up the inside there. It turns Tyler Wettengale. That's the driver who was kind of holding everybody up. He and Aiden Levy, and he got to the inside and said, we're done with this. I'm moving on.
And you know what? That's what they have to do, right? The pushback bumpers keep you from really being able to knock a guy out of the way, so he did the next best thing. Sent it in sideways, knocked him in the side pod, sent him to the wayside, Braden.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole group was just kind of fed up. They see that their chances are evaporating lap by lap as the gap to the leaders is just so massive.
And there we go. Look at that, change in the lead. Because
Christian Miles went purple on that lap. He's 2/10 faster, completely alone. He is closing on these front two. Give him 2 more laps with 5 to go. He's going to be on their bumper. This is going to be a 3-kart battle for $5,000.
And I have to say that John Burke is going to be wanting to put it to the inside as much as he can. He wants to control this race, make sure that he's in it. He knows Connor's fast. He doesn't want to let him get a lead at all.
Yeah, and Connor's already starting to pull a little bit on him. Here's the draft part of the racetrack. The longest and highest speed is down the front straightaway. So if Burke's going to send it, it'll be turn 1 or turn 3. He's already done it to him once. Turn 1, not close enough. Through 1, you carry a lot of speed. Does he dive him into 3? He thought about it, didn't do it. Christian Miles still gaining on them all the while. He was 2/10 better than Zilish, was 4/10 better than the 2 of them the lap prior.
If I'm in John Burke's position and in these next 2 laps I can't catch up to Connor Zilish, it's better just to wave Christian Miles on by and say, hey, you go race him. You let this race come back to me. That would be the smart, mature move, but it looks like he's found some rhythm again, found some speed. Connor Zilish pulls really well out of that last 2 corners of that chicane. He does really well. And there you go, Christian Miles down the inside. John Burke's not fighting that. He's going to let that go. He's going to push him up to Connor Zilish. He knows Christian Miles right now is the Kart to beat, and he wants him to go take it to Connor Zilish.
Yeah, you got to let someone else fight it. Bring it back to you, exactly like what you said. He's not going to fight him into 3. And Christian Miles, the ultimate underdog right now, the rookie standout, is on his way to one heck of a payday. $5,000 on the line, and again, Connor Zilish already got $500 of that money. Hayden Jones got the other half, but that's just pocket change. $5,000, and Christian Miles sees it in front of him. 2 car lengths up the road, 4 to go this time by, and Connor Zilish leading, trying to hang on here to win it again. He, I believe, was our winner last year in the KA Shootout, and again, like you said, Ryan, was so close in that X30 main. Both of you guys close in that X30 main.
Unfortunately, yeah, we were very close, too close. But look, Christian Miles is closing on Connor Zilish. He does such a good job.
Here he goes! Down the inside, turn 3, new leader, crossover move from Zilish back to the outside, and Christian Miles holds. Here comes Burke to the inside into 8.
And now John Burke's got to get by Christian Miles, and there he goes to the inside. That's a smart move. He knows Christian Miles is going to get away. Now, side by side, Christian Miles and Connor Zilish going through the right-hander there. He's going to look to the inside going into this last new section of the racetrack. He decides better of it. John Burke, your new leader. Christian Miles in second, and Connor Zilish in third.
What a battle we've got coming on here to the final few stages. More side-by-side action all the way down the front stretch. Burke's going to block. 3 to go. Zilish 3 wide for the lead in turn 1.
White lining it, 4 laps to go. This is for $5,000. Everybody knows that, and it's a 3-kart battle for the lead. John Burke, he's the slowest of this trio. And Connor Zilish goes to the inside.
He's
going
to the racetrack, goes
right
Miles.
Off the racetrack.
Oh, and Burke blocking still. That's kept Zilish in it. Here we go. Zilish back to the lead. Burke's going to dive him right here.
And Connor Zilish looking to do that over-under. It looks like he's got to the inside. John Burke, he's sideways. Contact through that corner. Wow, John Burke is being so aggressive. He's not giving up on this 5K. He's going to let the officials take it away from him if he has to.
Christian Miles is saying that and Christian Miles is saying this is exactly what he wants to see. These guys are not going to give anything up. 3 laps to go. Christian Miles, I expect him to be there in another half a lap.
He's going to be there, right? Christian Miles was bouncing through the dirt half a lap ago, or 1 lap ago. Now he's right back in it as Burke goes to the low side. 2 to go, slides it, turn 8. Zilish crosses him over again.
And he's got paycheck on his mind, but he's also got payback on his mind.
Oh!
John Burke to the inside. Christian Miles going to go underneath John Burke. Now it's Connor Zilic to the lead. Christian Miles in second, and 2 wide through the chicane.
Oh, no, that's not what you want to see. Burke fought it again. Burke got back to second. Christian Miles back to third, and Connor Zilish has a huge lead here on the final lap.
Wow, that is just unfortunate right there for John Burke and Christian Miles. Both of them got in the way of one another. No one wanted to concede, and that just led everybody to fall back and lose that time. And right now you're seeing Christian Miles fall into Alex Stanfield's hand and Chase Hand, another strong, fast driver.
So final lap, Alex Stanfield just going to block the inside there. He's just going to try and hang on for dear life for fourth. Hope for the penalties to come. Alex Stanfield has done everything he can, but he's not going to be there. John Burke and Christian Miles fought too much on the final lap. Connor Zilish, give the payday, $5,000. He wins the KA Shootout here on Friday.
Wow, what an impressive run. The move that did it for that race was that pass on Christian Miles. Christian Miles was the fastest driver. He was the one to beat. And, you know, you can have your own opinions on it, but he got rid of the fastest driver, and that's what won him that race.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at that race, you know, we all went into this expecting absolute aggression, and we saw over-aggression costing them that race.
Yep, and that's what happened. I mean, John Burke and Christian Miles, you get in those moments, and I mean, I can look at it from the outside and say you guys should have done something different, but when you're in that position, your tension, everything's so high, and you're just ready. You want to make something happen, and unfortunately, that move right there cost both of them a chance at the win.
Yeah, absolutely there, Burke. In that case, right, you want to play armchair, quarterback. John Burke, if he lets Miles go, maybe he goes and messes with Zilic and he gets another shot, but he passed him in the one part of the racetrack that was so tricky for them to try and figure out a way around. So just absolute pandemonium. We did not expect anything less than that right there. But hey, Braden, listen, you said he was patiently aggressive, maybe too patient. He proved you wrong in this one.
I have to bite my tongue on that one. I regret some of those words. His patience paid off. You know, I think he was the fastest driver out there, though. So, you know, him and Christian Miles definitely had a notch up on everyone else. But, you know, congrats to him for picking up the dub and the $5,000.
And we're talking about basically, you know, the experience of Connor Zilic is what won that race.
Right.
I mean, you know, these drivers, they're all really young. I mean, John Burke, we're talking about an average age of like 16. You know, we're talking about experience here from the 16-year-old, but that is what really showed. I mean, Connor Zilic's experience there to know that, you know, I need to fight this move or not this move and back out of that one. That's what won that race, you know, being patiently aggressive. Exactly what he said before the race, and that's what did it here.
That's it, right? John Burke was 100% aggressive all the way through, did everything he thought he needed to do to try and win it. And again, they're going to play it back in their heads overnight, all night tonight, and probably to think about what they could have done better or worse. But hey, man, a big smile on the face of Connor Zilic as he is stoked to get the win here tonight. And we got to talk with him after that one. What an awesome run. He is crowded around by a number of supporters here that are super stoked with that. And there's the congratulations from Nick Tucker, his GWR camp. I'm sure they're going to make their way over to him and congratulate him as well. And what a great run for Connor Zilic. Flipper gets it done here tonight in the KA Shootout. Lots of congratulations going around for him. For John Burke and company, we'll chat with them. We'll try and talk to Christian Miles if we can as well. The whole top three, because you got to get all their views on how that all went down. It's just a wild ending for sure. But man, I mean, you know, you take out of that again, we knew John Burke was 100% aggressive. Christian Miles in that position for the very first time. You know, I mean, Burke, he wasn't here to run the shootouts, but he got to see them, ran the rental car tuner shootout, so he's been a part of it enough to know, you know, what he needed to do to get it. There's the congratulations from Eric Jones with IAME East, and he'll give him the $5K check here in just a few moments. And there is Mr. CNC Performance Engineering, Chris Knockman, with the super cool trophy, the Gunslinger trophy there. Connor Zilic, your winner. Let's send it down trackside here to Caleb.
All right, Connor, you had an intense battle there. Tell us about that race before we get into how your emotions are right now.
Yeah, I mean, me and John drove a good race. Just stay out front. Christian was really fast. Good job to him. Sorry about the contact. I mean, when we're going for that much money, outside never works. But, you know, just an awesome race, and just thankful that I was able to finish and finished on top, honestly. So just thankful for Gary for giving me this opportunity, and everyone who supports me. Allison Racing Engine's giving me an awesome motor, and we still got 2 more days to go this weekend, so it's not over yet, but it's a good start.
Now you're $5,000 richer. What are you going to spend that money on?
That goes right back into my racing.
There it is. That is your winner this afternoon. That is Connor Zillage taking home, actually in total, $5,500 after one event here on Friday night. As we're going to send it back to the booth with you, Connor Zillage is over here getting his trophy and his check for this tonight's event. Xander?
Yeah, what an awesome run here, Caleb. Thanks again. Now, talking about this, right, guys, both of you two potentially in the works to get into tomorrow night's X30 Shootout. You were in the same spot you were last year where you had Connor and Paulie getting to run both days. I mean, that's a big benefit to being able to get that seat time and to be in this environment again. Connor's now been in this environment 3 times, and once again gets a lot of cash out of it. But that's got to be a benefit, right? There's being in it and there's watching it. There's something to take from where we're at, but there's something he's got to take too.
It definitely is. But the one thing that you got to remember is that they change the track layout for everybody, and that's the biggest screwball that you get out there is because you don't know where the passing zones are going to be. With the different power band between the 2 engines, you don't really know. Obviously, you get to deal with the pressure and being in this environment, but all these drivers, we're built for that. We've been there. We know what the pressure's like. We got our heads on straight, and we're ready for it. But, yeah, Connor Zillage, he gets to celebrate tonight, but he's got to go to bed and get, back in it because he's got another – I don't know how much they're going to put up tomorrow, but he's got a lot of money to try and go for tomorrow.
Well, he's got a lot to go for tomorrow. Now let's hear it from the man that was fighting with him all the way long there, John Burke. Lots of battling. He's down here with Caleb.
All right, so John Burke, you were up in the mix with the top 3. It was you, Christian Miles, Connor Zillage. You guys had an intense battle the last couple laps. Walk us through what your plan was in the last about maybe 5 or 6 laps on and just how it turned out for you.
We all started passing for the lead, so I figured someone's going to start blocking soon, so might as well be me. And then everything was going all right, and I just messed up the block a little bit. Zillage got by and race over. I had to pass Miles back, and he got a gap.
Now, did it catch you off guard when Christian Miles was there in the battle with you guys? Because he had a huge lead at the start, and then it was a matter of about 4 or 5 laps that took Miles to catch back up.
No, someone's always going to catch up, regardless if it's me, Connor, Petro, Hildbrand, whoever's in the front. Someone's going to catch you. But I'm just disappointed I messed up the block twice in a row. Like, I got him back the one time, but I wasn't able to get him back the last time.
All right, there it is. John Burke coming up into the second spot. Shootout this afternoon. We're going to send it back to the booth with you guys.
And there you have it, John Burke just saying, I've messed up the block twice. And that's what, you're dealing with experienced drivers like Connor Zillage. Fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me. And that, you weren't able to get the pass done because Connor learned from what he did the previous one and was able to get it done.
Yeah, he was able to do an awesome job here tonight. Credit to him for pulling that one off. Christian Miles, again, can't hold his head down at all. What an awesome performance tonight. And really, again, this is, for Christian Miles, only his second ever time in a senior environment. He came out, star-studded performance at USPKS Newcastle's finale, won there in his debut weekend, comes here, gets the Trackhouse Karting Career Advancement Award. I think that's more than deserving with his performance tonight alone. But first time in the shootout for him in any kind of environment like this. For a young kid racing against the seniors, you can think back. You and I got a little ways to think back of our first year in senior, but it's nerve-wracking just to line up on the grid in a final.
It is. I mean, in this environment, you don't take into consideration having all the eyes on you, having this screen, that this camera focused on you, having everybody watching you and your every move, and then to add $5,000 on top of it, that's a lot of pressure to deal with. And I mean, Christian Miles did a great job trying, managing that pressure. And obviously, a little bit of an experience thing cost him that win because he did get held up on the outside, didn't want to give it up, and unfortunately, that's what cost him the race right there.
Unfortunate here. Thanks again, of course, Ryan, for joining us. So awesome to have you here in the booth with us here tonight. And, again, tomorrow, you had a good day today, P1, back-to-back, but, nothing's ever guaranteed.
No, nothing's guaranteed, and there's a lot of fast drivers coming from behind. I mean, they didn't get great qualifyings with it being so tight as it was, but they're making their way through the field, and, I got my work cut out for me for tomorrow, but we're trying some stuff tonight, and we're going to be better and better prepared for tomorrow.
Well, that's Ryan Norberg again joining us in the booth. Myself and Caleb Smock will be back tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our coverage tonight for the IAME USA Grand National Championship presented by Hunt Brothers Pizza. We're only halfway through the week. Again, it is down with one shootout, another one to come. The MG Tires X30 Shootout with a guaranteed amount of $5,000 up for grabs for Ryan and company to get after tomorrow. 2 more heat races, pre-finals, mains, all to come this weekend. It kicks off tomorrow afternoon again at 2 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Come back to us here live from Mooresville, North Carolina. We send it off. Good night.